Well, we are back, guys, for some more league racing on the channel. But today, we are not racing in AOR, which is the league I often race in. That league is currently on a 2-weekend break. So I've returned to ORL, which is a league I raced in about a month ago. And it's probably the most competitive league on the F1 game, featuring multiple F1 esports drivers and F1 Pro Draft competitors. So it's a different level when it comes to the competitiveness of this league. And today we are here for the penultimate round of the season for USA, and hopefully, if all goes well, I'll be racing in Top Split as well next weekend for the finale in Abu Dhabi, so get subscribed for that. Also, real quick, I want to plug the previous ORL episode, guys, the previous race in this league about a month ago. I'll leave a link up in the top right-hand corner of your screen, along with my previous AOR race in Belgium, so you can go check both of those out. I've also resolved the sound issue, so you can actually hear my engine sound now in the background. But that aside, in the background, you've been watching qualifying, and full wet conditions, pretty tricky in terms of getting it right, and we went for one run, did a bit, a couple laps, had some fuel in the car, and then I went out for a second run, and this was my best lap of qualifying. So here we go, up towards turn number 1, braking as the black box appears on the right hand side, down to second gear, easy on the throttle out of here, trying to short shift and trying to get that traction, and easy does it through there using 7th gear, bit of oversteer as we then head into the S section. And to be fair, did a pretty good job. I nailed it, holding it in 7th gear seemed to work pretty well for me, and we now end sector 1 with a personal best first sector and less than a tenth off the guy in P6. So we're closing in, we're not doing too badly here, but then I lost a little bit of time through the end of the S's over the top of the hill there. Unfortunately, I threw away 2 tenths, the tenth that I was up plus an extra tenth that I lost, so not ideal. Going through the hairpin, I managed to actually pull back a bit of lap time because I wasn't able to nail that section too well before. Again though, it's a bit of a shame because if you take into account the 2 tenths that I threw away, we should be nearly 4 tenths up on this particular point of the lap. We then brake just before the 50-meter board into this big heavy brake zone on the back straight. Easy does it, trying to pick up the traction through here as we then go into the double right-hander. Very easy to lock up, or lose the back end. You get a lot of understeer and then it converts into oversteer on the exit. We then make our way into now the double left-hander. Easy to lose the back end as we saw with Nico Rosberg 5 years ago, and just try to take it easy with the acceleration out of there. Just feathering the throttle through the triple right and now into the penultimate corner, trying to open the line and hitting that apex beautifully, and now just one more corner to go, and we're currently 4 tenths up as we make our way through the final apex. Easy does it on the traction out of there, and we improve by 4 tenths of a second. Probably should have been another 2 tenths in that, but we go P6 at the time with that as Jana Otmir improves, and he goes a full second quicker than us. And you guys know, of course, Jana Otmir, who just recently won the F1 Esports World Championship, so that's the kind of caliber of driver we're racing against here today in this league race. I went for one more lap. I was able to find a bit of time through the hairpin, you can see. There was more time to find, but we didn't quite nail the first part of the lap, so I wasn't really able to benefit. I kept on pushing, but then I got a bit of oversteer, lost the back end, and invalidated my lap time, so I pulled over to the side, and that was going to be game over for me in qualifying as Jana Otmir goes past, and GG, job done. We finished P10 in the end, and 9 tenths off the pace. Having looked at it all together, I do believe there was another 2 or 3 tenths in it on a perfect lap. So I do think, P4 could have been possible. I think that's realistically what I'm looking at. Maybe P3 on an absolutely perfect lap. So I definitely could have been higher up, and you've got a few big names in there. Jana Otmir, of course, Tomek Porojic, who is a McLaren F1 Esports Academy driver. You've also got Michael Romanidis, who of course is an F1 Esports driver for Williams. Daniel Haddad, who is an F1 Esports driver for Racing Point. Benzabo Konyi, Ruben Vallejo, Falcon Nardi, who are all, I believe, F1 Pro Draft candidates. And then Shanaka Clay, of course, F1 Esports driver for Racing Point as well. And Nicolas Mantel, who is also an F1 Pro Draft contender. So a good mix of drivers. And to be fair, we finished behind all the fast guys and all of those who have been involved in F1 Esports. So there's your grid, a decent qualifying. I will admit I'm not running a USA setup, so I could have maybe gone a bit quicker had I had one. But yeah, altogether, I didn't do much practice, only about 6 laps before this, so I'll take that. That was a decent qualifying, and in the wet, I actually had a pretty good pace. But we're now going to move into the race, which was in the dry. Here we go. The lights are starting to come on. We're going to start on the medium tyres. Lights are on and lights out, and away we go. And we get a great launch off the line here, getting a slightly better start than the cars ahead, heading up towards turn one. And I'm going to go straight in the middle of this little gap here, trying to find a way through. Cars to the left, cars to the right, just trying to keep things nice and tidy. And we get through turn one cleanly, which is really, really important. We then head into the S's for the first time in this race. And again, a bit cautious, letting people around me kind of open up the gaps. We've got Falconardi in the Renault really struggling here on the back foot, and he gets a bit loose as well. We're going to try and go around the outside of him, but we just get squeezed. I tried to avoid picking up a warning for track limits because around here it's very easy to extend, and we have to let the Renault go. But now Arsene in the Red Bull looking for a move, and actually Anka, I believe, in the Ferrari goes for a big old dive as we manage to just about hold on and get the momentum around the outside of the hairpin. So we stay in 10th place. Falconardi dropping quite a few places off the start, so he had a pretty poor one. But look at this behind. Both of these guys running a lot of straight line speed here. And I've got to be careful because we're going to run to the back of the Renault as well if we're not careful. And Anka goes down the inside. I've got to be careful off the track as well for track limit reasons. But in the end, we try to go back down the inside. We're side by side now heading into this tricky left-hander, trying to hold it around the outside, but we get pushed onto the curb and I just can't quite get the traction. And the Ferrari makes the move up into P10. So a bit of an unfortunate one. The timing of that really didn't really work out for me because you had Anka and the Red Bull with a big overspeed, and I didn't want to dive on the Renault because I knew I wasn't going to outbrake him. So it was kind of awkward. But now moving on to lap 2, we've got a bit of lag here for Nicolas Matteo in the Alfa Romeo, and he's struggling. So we're going to try and go around the outside and do the exact same move Anka did to us on the last lap here, and now we're on the inside into the double left. But unfortunately for us, we didn't do as good. I tried to force him onto the curb, but Matteo hangs in there. He's got the inside line. We're still side by side here through these triple rights. Brilliant racing here in this race already on lap 2. Side by side into the left hand. I'm trying to be cautious and leave a bit of room, and he makes the move. But now Andy down the inside on the soft tyres, the only man to start on those. He pushes me off onto the curb, and I have to get out of it. And now his teammate Arsene is looking for the move. DRS is enabled up towards turn 1. We're going to go extremely late on the brakes. Big old send to try and defend the position. And I knew Arsene was a bit limited by his teammate up ahead, so I knew I could use all of the outside line to kind of outbrake him, and that's exactly what I did. So we're P12 now. We've lost 2 places, starting P10. You could say I've not been aggressive enough, but the thing is, when you get forced off the track, again, as a reminder, you can't just drive flat out because there is, of course, track limits you've got to worry about. We are on strict corner cutting limits, so you've got to try and respect that as best as you can. Either way, we move on to lap 6. A few things happened, and eventually Andy overtook Anka in the Ferrari, and you can see he's actually struggling a bit for tyres, and we're going to get a great exit here. And to be fair, you can see his light flashing, which means he's got less than 10% ERS left, so we're going to make a very straightforward and easy move. In this first part of the race, I was trying to drive conservative, so managing tyres, managing my ERS, and managing a bit of fuel as well, because I feel like I might get more opportunities later on in the stint. So we got past Anka, and now Andy is starting to struggle as we get a very stupid warning for track limits there, just losing concentration for a split second. But back to the racing, Andy struggling on those softs. He also has a 6-second time penalty, so we're going to try and make light work of him. I think he knows it's GG, it's game over, so we are going to just pull over to the left-hand side. He doesn't defend it, lets us have the inside line. And meanwhile, up ahead, we've got Benzabo Konyi and Nicolas Matteo battling away. So this is going to help me close the gap and get within a second, which is really important around here. As you can see, they're still side by side. We've seen this move a few times in this race already, and it's continuing to happen on lap 8. But we now skip onto lap 11. Now, at this stage, we're going pretty well. The pace is strong. I actually decided to follow the 2 cars ahead of me for a little while. I didn't quite have enough pace as we get my second warning for track limits. Another stupid one there, as you can hear me saying, by running a bit too wide. But the plan was simple. Just try and follow these guys. They've got some good pace. I wasn't much quicker, to be honest. The fact I'm not running a USA setup was quite noticeable. But then on lap 13, you can see that AlphaTauri makes a bit of an error through there, maybe struggling on tyres a little bit, and that puts me right on the back of him as we're going to try and make this move. We're actually going to go for it into the hairpin here because we've got DRS in the back straight, so we may as well go for the send. Not the best move though, bit of a lock up on the front left. We tried to push him onto the curb a little bit, but he's having none of it. And now DRS, both of us. It's a drag race, but I've got a bit of ERS to use that I've saved, of course, by following him. And we've got the inside line. But to my surprise, on the brakes, Ben Szabo comes back at me around the outside. I try to push him onto the curb again. Didn't quite work. And he's still got his nose tucked in. And this is allowing the Alfa Romeo ahead to pull away. But eventually, we nail it through here. We hold the inside line, get a nice defensive position, cut off the switchback, and actually in the process, in the mirrors, you can see Anka taps Ben Szabo around, and he goes for a spin, and at the same time, the car ahead, Nicolas Martel, disconnects from the session, so suddenly we're going to make up 2 places in about 5 corners here and move up into P8, so the timing on that was phenomenal. And we get our just rewards for waiting, and being patient. The first part of the race, we didn't quite have the pace, and, I wasn't aggressive enough, but I was trying to save tyres and fuel. But now you can see people are starting to struggle, and that patience is paying off because I've got a bit better pace now, and I can make some progress. So we're now up into 8th place, and that's exactly where I wanted to be because there was a nice bit of clean air. And to be fair, you can see we've got Ruben Vallejo in the pit lane on lap number 15, but we're going to box this lap for soft tyres. And the reason for that is because I believe Anka in the Ferrari is in the pit lane, so I need to respond. So he's on the undercut, and here we go then. Into the pit lane. This has to be perfect because the soft tyre is going to be a lot quicker on that Ferrari of Anka. So hitting our marks beautifully there, as most cars do pit on this lap. I believe the only car to not pit was Jana Otmir, if I'm not mistaken. Into the pits, we get slightly held by the Red Bull there, who was pitting. The timing on that was not ideal. So, yeah, I lost about, let's say, half a second maybe. Not ideal, but it shouldn't be too bad as we now make our way out of the pit exit. Here comes Andy. He's on mediums, and there is Calcifer. And now Anka was right in my blind spot as he approaches turn 1. And as you can see, he's right behind us there. So half a second behind. He's cut that gap down, but crucially, we're ahead. Really, really important move. And we're going to stay on board here because I knew Anka was going to try and get by straight away. So I got straight on the pace. I wasn't messing about. And I wanted to try and get past his teammate, or at least get DRS. And you can see the grip difference on these tyres. We're just catching corner after corner here. And we're going to really close that gap to Calcifer up ahead. Now heading into the hairpin, I'm going to try and brake nice and late, open up the line, clip the apex, and then just try and get that traction, which we do. And there we go, we're right in the gearbox. And I think he knows it's a no contest as we breeze past. And crucially, we had to make that move because now Anka is going to, be under pressure a little bit, and we haven't got worries so much. So as you can see up ahead, we're catching back up to Nicolas Martel, who is unfortunately still disconnected. Andy trying to get by in the process in the Red Bull, but this should be a straightforward move. Andy's pretty quick, he's one of my championship rivals in AOR, but in this particular race, I had a lot more pace than him, and he went for the other strategy of soft to medium, which wasn't really working. And at this stage, I've just got so much pace. And as you can hear me say, I am trying to drop Anka out of DRS range in the Ferrari, but he's just about hanging in there because I'm being held by Andy in the Red Bull. But now, through the final corner, we're going to get that line and that exit absolutely perfect. We open the DRS and use full power to get by, and we move back up to 8th place and back where we were. So, happy days, and worth noting, up ahead, Shanaka Clay has got a time penalty. So, he's going to be, within range. If I can stay within, let's say, 10 seconds, we should finish ahead of him. And as we set a new personal best, 32.0, which will end up being my personal best lap of the race. And we now cut on to lap 20, and you can see we're not losing any ground. Shanaka Clay is still just 3 seconds up ahead, and he's got a 9-second time penalty, and actually he pits to retire from the race. So essentially, we're going to get a free position here and move up to P7. But to be fair, I would have finished there anyway because I was more than close enough within penalty range to benefit. So P7 for us after starting P10 and then dropping down to P12, almost P13 at one stage in the opening laps. A decent recovery, and we're now behind Falconardi and Daniele Haddad in the racing point. And we now come to lap 23. You can see the gap has gone up slightly to those guys. A penalty for Falconardi as Arsen gets ahead of VSR Anchor. We've now got a 5-second gap, so we're pretty safe because my target was to open up a gap. I'm on 2 warnings still, so even if I've got a 3-second time penalty for track limits, I'd be covered. And that's exactly what I did. And we got into the last lap of the race. Jana Otmir picks up the win, of course. He dominated the race. And we was pretty comfortable in the end, to be fair. We had more than enough of a gap. And the crucial thing, I didn't get a time penalty. I kept it clean from lap, I believe, 11 all the way to the end. We kept it nice and tidy within track limits. And there we go, job done, P7. And I will take that. That is a very, very solid result. We didn't score points in the French Grand Prix about a month ago, so happy days. My first points in the league, and it couldn't have gone any better. As you can see, the final race results, Jonah Otmir won the race by 3.1 seconds over Michael Romanidis. We've got Daniel Haddad in third place. I believe he benefited from not having a time penalty. Tomek Polajic, P4, ahead of Ruben Vallejo and Falcon Nardi in P5 and P6. Nardi picking up the fastest lap. We finish in P7, so best of the non-esports guys, you could say, and beating Bent Zabo on track. Well, to be fair, Bent did get spun round. He was trying to recover, but in the end finishes 10 seconds behind us. Arsene gets 8th place, and then Anchor in P10. So a decent day at the office, and only 19 seconds off Jonah Otmir in a 50% race. I'll take that, considering, you know, my lack of practice. I only done about 6 laps, and I wasn't running USA setup. I think had I done those things a bit better, I could have actually been in the mix for P5, P6, especially with those penalties. I don't see why I couldn't have been a bit closer to those guys, but overall, good pace, and I was really happy with myself, especially, you know, USA is not one of my stronger tracks, and I was really happy about that, and also not getting a penalty, which is such an easy thing to do around this circuit. And yeah, guys, that's going to be, of course, I'm not a regular contender in the championship, so there's no standings to look at because I've only just scored my first points today. And hopefully I'll be back again in this top split race next weekend. This grid had 16 drivers in it. I'm kind of hoping the next one has a full 20. I'm looking forward to that. And it'll be the finale of the ORL League. So, guys, that's going to be it for the video here today. If you enjoyed it, leave a like and subscribe for more. And there'll be more league racing content on my channel, and also I'll stream this every Sunday night, guys, on my Twitch, so link down below in the description for that. Finally, check out the 2 videos on screen, including the previous AOR race and the previous ORL race. And yeah, guys, I'll see you next time, but until then, take care, and it's goodbye from me.